You're excellent. All right, Kyle. Good evening. How are you, man?
Hello, I'm doing okay.
Yeah, so thanks for joining me. This is Rise Up number four. Here with really my inspiration in this journey here. Kyle has done so much for dentistry, for dentists, and their struggles with mental health and stress and the rat race, man.
Oh, you're muted, Todd.
There we
There we
go.
go. Yeah. Oh, you're muted again.
Uh, I don't know why it's
You're
doing
back.
it. Yeah, let me know if that happens again. But
Okay.
yeah, so Kyle's really been our inspiration in dealing with the stresses and rigors of dentistry. Of course, it's not just unique to dentistry, but that's the world we live in. And to manage it is critical to get back to the thriving stage of practice is essential unless we continue to stay in this world of stress and the cycles of stress and leading to depression. The more more of this you take on, the deeper you get into a state of depression and unhappiness, and then that's no way to live, right? So Kyle and I think both present this journey, this story of what looked like success in our careers, but in reality, we were also battling. And I think our goal with Rise Up and what Kyle does for his programs is to make sure that all of you out there, not just dentists, but everybody, realize that you're not alone. That there are people that are battling just like you and are here for you. And there are programs now, again, thanks to Kyle and Martin and some of the other guys you met if you were on our first Rise Ups, that are doing things like this for the profession. That's new, really. In dentistry before Kyle, there wasn't really much like this, and if there was, it wasn't out there. Now with social media in some effort, we're getting it out there. And again, Kyle's been our inspiration in that. So what better um, what better way to begin tonight is introducing Kyle again to you. He's a dentist in Southern California, um, family guy, comes from a family of dentists. Um, Really went beyond dental school to get specialty training in South America on implants and aesthetics, and has been published and has done all the things that is a well-rounded, successful professional would do. But in reality, he also had to battle the stresses of what he was doing, and that's what's real. That's what's really essential that everybody understand tonight is that the two of us, although we may look really good when we look at our academic resume and our success in private practice, we too suffered. And thanks to God and people and influences, we got out of that rut, but we still work on it every day. And part of what we're doing tonight is and internally helps us, right? So us talking about it and helping you understand that there is a pathway to better mental health and more happiness is that we're in your shoes too. We are not we are not spared of these stresses, even if we're in a position of what looks like success on the outside. So, welcome everybody. Welcome, Kyle. And yeah, let's just hear again. I've heard it, but I'd love for you to tell your story and how you got out of school and then up to the point where you were about ready to quit dentistry. Tell that story again because it's powerful.
Yeah, well, thanks, Todd, for having me. It's nice to be back again, and thanks for all the kind words. I was, on the outside, I really had everything that my dental school self wanted. I had this celebrity practice in Beverly Hills, high-end fee-for-service practice. I was doing the perio pros cases that I wanted to do. I was traveling around and speaking on the podiums and, like you said, publishing in the big journal articles and making good money. And I was miserable. I came home in 2018 and told my wife that I was thinking of quitting dentistry. And that was a hard thing to do to get to that point. Was like, I had put hundreds of thousands of dollars into my schooling, into dental school, into residency, into my practice. I mean, when you think about my practice too, you're talking about millions of dollars too. And then to just be like, I can't take this shit anymore. And when, so I had to go on this journey. And me being a research nerd, I did what any research nerd would do, which is go to PubMed and start reading articles about why I feel like this. So I started studying things that most dentists don't study, like the psychology of overachievers. I started studying personal success habits. I started looking at communication styles. And I realized that although I was very well trained clinically, I was basically untrained in anything else. So it was like I knew how to be a good clinical dentist, and that's about it. I didn't really know anything else. I didn't have any soft skills. And when you look at some of the research on this, it's crazy because 85% of your financial success is based on soft skills. It's not based on, how good you are at your hard skills. So I was studying positive psychology and the psychology of overachievers and personal success habits and evolutionary biology. And I started changing a lot of things in my life. So I started having better communication patterns. I started setting boundaries with people. I started being better about setting expectations with patients, with team members. And so I went on this really big journey. And I remember I started changing things like how much I work. So I started taking a day off a week, which sounds crazy to most patients or to most doctors. And I remember being outside in the middle of the day and the warm California sun was shining down on my face in the middle of the day and thinking, I'm finally getting better. And then because I have a platform with, social media and with speaking around the world 30 times a year, I was telling my story. And then people started asking me like, "Hey, how did you do it? How did you get out of it? I'm going through that, or my business partner's going through that, or my son, or, my dental school classmate." And so I realized that I wasn't the only one and that I could really start helping others by sharing my story. And so that's what I started doing was creating the resources that I wish that I had when I was in my darkest times.
Yeah, yeah. And that spilled over to so many. One of my dear friends, Ron Hickerson, who I've worked with for 25 years, was one of Kyle's first. Was he in your first group?
I think he may have been in my first group.
I think he
Yeah,
was.
I mean very early, if not my first, my second or third. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had known you, already, and I knew what you were doing, and I'd heard a lecture where you mentioned it, but it really wasn't a big part of
Yeah.
the lecture I remember seeing. But when Ron came to me and told me about it, that was really where I was at. I was at this time of
Mm.
my career where, almost at that time, probably almost 20 years in, and yeah, I mean, the practice is successful. We do clinical research. We lecture all over the world like you. We have, an institute in Japan. We have an offices in Japan and Guam and in Houston, and starting our own DSO, and everything's just dandy, right? Everything's perfect.
Everything sounds great on the outside.
Yeah, but in reality, I was having some major mental health issues with one of my children. Really, the stresses of growing up as a young lady in a big city, uh,
Mm.
was surrounded by social influences and status and trying to fit in and all of that happens with probably all of our children. But
Yeah.
as a parent, to see your oldest of three suffering, man, I've never suffered so much as dealing with seeing my children in pain. And
Mm.
that catapulted me into saying, man, I gotta be more mindful of how I'm doing. Right.
Hmm.
I'm no good for anybody else, my patients, my team, my family, if I'm not good.
That's
And
a great point, Todd, and I think we should expand on that because there at least I had this thought, and I know a lot of people that I work with have this thought too, is they think it's selfish for me to work on myself. Because we're kind of taught, we take care of our team, we take care of our patients, we take care of our family, we give, 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 give. But I love what you said is like, you can't be there for your kids if you're not in a good place. And that was what I had to come to realize was the if I focus on myself, it's not selfish, it's selfless because when I'm in a better place, I'm a better leader. I'm a better father, I'm a better husband. I'm a better dentist, even. I'm a better business partner to people because I'm not so reactive. And so I think that is a big learning that it even took me a few years to kind of put that thought together. It was what I did, but I didn't really see it until it was in hindsight.
Yeah, no, totally, so true. And kind of to break down what I did was that one, I recognize that without me feeling better about all of this and managing the hard stuff, right, of helping a child in a pretty bad situation and managing all the other things we were doing, that I had to be more mindful of myself and I had to help myself realize that there was a whole boatload of stresses that I'd never managed. And that's hard
Yeah.
for a grown man to admit that there's a lot of traumas, that's the way I'll define them. There's traumas in your life that, man, I mean, I remember this is a profound story, right? My first year at dental school, I go home for a Christmas break. My dad needed a hernia operation, so I went home to help him out. Get him do his Christmas shopping and so forth. And December 27, 1994, I'm a first year dental student, and we woke up to go skiing, snow skiing. And he was going to drive and just hang out because he had the hernia operation, and he dropped and had an MI, and I resuscitated him. And unfortunately, on the way to the hospital, he had two more rounds of VFib and died. And I was 20 something, and he was 54. And
God.
I gave the eulogy at his funeral, and I was the guy that took care of my older two sisters, took care of my dad's wife, took care of my dad's child with this new wife. I was the one that stood up, survivor syndrome, right? You stand
Yeah.
up, you survive, you lead. I've heard it called survivor syndrome. I've heard it called the Viking syndrome.
Mhm.
It's those of us that feel that in stress we're going to perform. We're going to be the one that leads us out of this shithole and makes it right. And I went back to dental school and I finished the first year in the top of my class. Right. I went back a week late because I had to help with the funeral and take care of everybody. And then I go back to dental school and I excel. And I felt that I didn't have 1 ounce of therapy. Right. I dealt with it on my own and I thought I dealt with it awesome. But in
Mhm.
reality, as I've reflected over the past few years, that trauma and others throughout life were never managed. And if you
Mhm.
get inside yourself with mindfulness and a different level of spirituality, you're never going to be able to feel comfortable with what you and I are now talking about to people. And that is that let's approach this with a really good sense of self awareness and mindfulness so that we can give back to our patients and our family, everybody around us, whatever you want, whether it's your church or whatever it is for you as an individual. We're going to be giving a better version of ourselves. And we're going to realize that we are far, far from perfect.
Yeah, I mean, self-awareness is such a huge thing. In my five-step framework, the first module is called Realize, and it's really about that. It's about having self-awareness. I mean, we can't solve any problems in our life if we don't have the self-awareness that there's a problem there. I mean, even if you relate it back to, surgery or restorative or something, it's like if you don't know your margins are open, you're not going to be able to fix them. And it's the same thing with mental health. It's like if you don't know what's happening in your body or how you're reacting to people or, what your triggers are when you're at your practice, it's very hard to fix them. So self-awareness is step zero of solving any problem. It's like admitting, like I've never been through AA or anything, but I've had friends that have, and you see it on TV shows and movies, and the first step is admitting you're an alcoholic, right? And sometimes in dentistry, it's kind of admitting that you're addicted to dentistry. A lot of us are like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so let's do a couple things because I think the practicality of the short time we have together is that um, and I'll start is it three things that I think are pivotal to any dentist, anybody really. And then I'd
Hmm.
love to get into your five steps and to at least
Sure.
the or see that there is a process to get started. Tomorrow you
Yeah.
can if you're up for it, you can start the process on your own. And mine
Mhm.
are simple. Mine are that everybody needs a little therapy. Now, your version of therapy could be vastly different from mine, but
Mm.
everybody needs it. Everybody needs to work on their self, and let's call that therapy. Now, so that I think is important is that we grew up in a culture. I grew up in a significant culture of influence that said you don't need therapy. Come on,
Yeah.
tighten up your bootstraps.
That just means you're weak.
Means you're weak, right? So let's shut that down right now because I know more now than ever that I'm not a weak individual, right?
Hmm.
And therapy has carried me through the last 5 years with my daughter and myself. So that's critical. Two is there are very useful tools outside of traditional therapies that can help you dramatically. One is breath work. If you live in a practice like mine or yours and it's stressful and it's high impact and it's important clientele. Every patient's important, but in certain Beverly Hills and Houston, you also have this next level VIP culture where they expect you to be above and beyond everybody else they've ever seen.
Yeah.
And if you don't step up, then they're going someplace else.
Hmm.
So, and when you live in that environment of a stressful day, in order to embrace it, don't be foolish to think that you don't need some help along the way. So for me, breath work has been critical. Something specifically called dragon breath is essential. Tai Chi, essential in my daily routine now to utilize Tai Chi and breath work to get me through the stresses of the daily grind. So those two things or those three things really is get some help, even if it's a friend. Lean out to your friend that you can call anytime. Find a therapist that you can relate to. Do that. It's going to empower you to get into the journey like Kyle and I are going now, where we can feel like we can talk to someone else and help them. There is hope. You are not alone. And then this idea of utilizing different types of meditation, breath work, or other to help you through your days. And then lastly, reflect upon all of this. Whether you journal it, whether you talk to someone about it, getting it out there and feeling comfortable talking about it is a huge part of this battle that we all deal with, especially males, right? It's not in our DNA to be able to stand up and talk about this in an open forum, but we must. And
Yeah.
and really that's why we're here tonight, Kyle. I mean, that's why we're here tonight is to make sure everybody feels empowered to get out there and talk about this and don't push your problems underneath the carpet. Bring them up, get them out there, talk about
Hmm.
it. Man, will you feel a sense of relief? Um, so how about you? I mean, what are your, I'd say, takeaways before you even get to the five steps that you teach? What are your takeaways? What did Kyle do to get through the grind?
Well, I have some big lessons that I learned. So maybe I'll tell you what those lessons are, and then we can go to really my five steps. So I actually did a post about this recently, so it's very timely. But really, for me, I had these six lessons that when I look back right now, so I've been on this self-improvement journey since 2018. And my first big lesson is that there is a space between stimulus and response. And I didn't really know that that was possible. When I was at my lowest point of burnout, if someone said something to me that pissed me off, I immediately came back. There was no time between the stimulus and the response. And now I realize that I can control that, that there can be a stimulus, and either I don't have to respond, or I can take, like you're saying, a breath or two before I respond. Or I can take a week, depending on what it is. Sometimes it's an email from a patient that's angry, right? Or they don't like their provisionals or whatever, something like this. They got a bill that they didn't like. I don't know. And so that was my first one is knowing that there's a space between stimulus and the response. And in that space is where I can really grow my influence, grow my power. Number two, which kind of relates to number one, is that I can actually choose my emotions. I thought that something happens to me and I automatically respond. And now it's kind of crazy that you could to think that you can choose your emotions. And this is a big learning that a lot of people that have taken my Lightside Academy have learned as well. Is like you can be the and this is actually a quote from Ron Hickerson, so it's funny that you said that, is Ron said, I can be the air traffic controller on which emotions land and which ones don't. And I love that.
Yeah.
Number three is focus on what you can control. This took a long time for me, but it's one of the biggest ones and one of the biggest reliefs for me is I can only focus on what I do. I can't make someone else respond in a different way. And so if it's something that you can't control, the best thing is to just not worry about it. And I know that's easier said than done. This idea comes from Stephen Covey, and he has something called the circle of influence. And when I saw this, it just immediately changed my life. I mean, there's things that we're all concerned about, right? There's like, oh, there's politics, or there's climate change, or the person in front of me is driving like an idiot, right? Let's just focus on what we can do. Once you forget about all that other crap, oh my gosh, it's such a weight lifted off of your shoulders. Number four, which you already mentioned and we talked about, which is self-awareness is step zero in solving any problem. Number five is that every problem is just a skill I haven't learned yet. So this has to go more with the fact that as practitioners, we tend to think that skills are only things we do with our hands. But skills can be, like Martin says, uh, things that go on in between your ears or things that come out of your mouth. How to be good at communicating is probably one of the biggest skills anybody can learn in any profession, in any form of life. And we never work on that. And that's probably been one of the biggest things for me is realizing having a different mindset is a skill. Learning how to cope with emotions is a skill. It's a practice skill. How to have crucial conversations with team members or patients, a practiced skill. And the last one is just that health is the foundation to your mental health. So taking care of yourself physically is so darn important. And when I was at my lowest point, I hadn't exercised in years. I was eating whenever I could. I would go the entire day without taking a sip of water. And let's be honest, dentistry is freaking hard. You have to show up at your absolute best physical and emotional state at the beginning, because if you don't, all those little things that happen throughout the day is going to break you down. It's like build your house out of concrete so that when the big bad wolf comes, it's not going to get knocked down.
Yeah.
So those are my six big lessons after being on this self-improvement journey for the last 7 years.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And one thing for me for sure was I had to approach this with intent. And if you're going to improve your mindfulness and self-awareness and work on yourself, then you have to be a little bit more analytical of these things. Mindful breathing,
Yeah.
right? So the breath work is not as simple as it sounds, right? There's something called box breathing and dragon breath that you can look
Yeah.
up and understand. This is very important.
I'm a box breathing fan.
Yeah, huge, huge.
One of the things I think if we speak to dental professionals that are listening, we understand anatomy. We're doctors. We understand how this works. But until I really got into breath work and I love box breathing and meditation, I didn't even think that breathing is really the only autonomous um, thing that our body does that we can control, right? And so when you control breathing, you can then control heart rate. You can then control blood pressure. And so
Yes.
it's like it's crazy to think that we have that much control over our body because you think like, oh, my heart just kind of pumps by itself, right? Or if we're not thinking about it, you and I are talking, our body's going to breathe. I know you and I are big on airway too,
Yeah.
but controlling your breathing can then decrease your heart rate. It can also decrease your cortisol levels.
Right.
And it's free. You can
Yeah.
do it while you're driving. You can do it while you're doing surgery. I mean, you
Yes.
can do it at any point.
Yes. So
It's so undervalued.
so powerful.
Yeah.
And people from a physiologic standpoint, when you box breathe or you hold more on the exhale and you're building up CO2, that has a physiologic effect of calmness,
Yeah.
right? So anybody out there they're in the trenches, they're really struggling. All you got to do is slow down and take nice deep nasal breaths, hold on the exhale to build up CO2, and you will have an effect. Do it 5 times in a row, and you will have a physiologic effect. But in addition to breathing, get more intent with a body scan, you know, feel from your toes
That's
all the
that's
way up.
actually how I do meditation.
Yes,
Meditation was hard for me at first, and that's funny thing. I was talking about everything is a skill. Meditation is a skill.
absolutely.
I first started it. I did it for a few months. I'm going like, I don't know if I feel any different. It was kind of relaxing, but I don't know if I feel any different. And so I tried some different things. I was asking some friends that are better at it, that are more expert level. And one of my friends said, "Oh, you should try body scan." And I always recommend that to dentists now because I think it's so visual because I think about it as like a CBCT going
Yeah,
through my face, you know?
yeah, yeah.
And I tell doctors, do this. Okay, now start on the left side of your face and do a CBCT scan. Go around your arches, think about how, and that really helped me. I think because it's so visual.
Yeah. But it's the body scan, it's mindful walking, get in touch with the steps you take, mindful eating, notice the texture and the taste. All these things will create a heightened sense of mindfulness, which is essential to work on yourself.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, when I think about what you're saying now, a lot of it comes down to being present, right?
yeah,
Being
yeah,
present and appreciating the journey instead of just the destination. And
absolutely.
that can be with anything, but yeah,
Yeah,
being present is a big change. It's a big
yeah,
change because so many of us, especially, with our phones around all the time, it's hard to be present.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. I mean, I don't know if we want to go there tonight, but the social influence, man, I think our generation or our timeline within the generation is a little bit more fortunate, right? Because we played both sides of the game. We
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 did. Yeah,
remember analog, we remember
right.
no cell phones, we remember certainly no social media.
Yeah.
You know, so we lived in that world. I did, at least as a kid.
Hmm.
The first time I had a cell phone was in residency. Uh,
Mm.
so we live both in but now those that are living in this world and they weren't exposed to the old world, that's the new norm for them, and we're not turning that ship around.
Yeah.
So how are we going to make these kids, these young dentists, these young professionals, how are we going to make them more mindful to
Hmm.
manage the stresses of life and the
Yeah.
social influence upon them? Because whether it's, you and me, let's face it, we want more followers. We want more people to come to our courses. We want more people to think we're impactful and influential, right? That's important to us. We'd be
Yeah.
lying if we said it wasn't.
Hmm.
So that's you and me who have been at this quite a while. What about these young dentists, these young professionals that really want the full package? They want to be a clinician, they want to be a teacher, an educator, they want to be the best version of themselves. How do we help this generation of folks that have grown up in this social stress we live in and manage it and carry on and have peace and happiness and this sense of mindfulness, self-awareness? Uh,
Yeah. I
that-
mean, I think we can if you weren't asking a rhetorical question, I would answer it with, I think we can use the platforms to do good, which is like if they're going to be on Instagram, if dentists are going to be on Instagram, then I hope that they see my stuff and they get some positive influence because there's going to be negative influences in the dental world as well. So we need to have more people talk about it. One of the great things about the younger generation is they do want more balance than you and I did. I
Yes.
think going into dental school, you and I are very much the same in the sense that we're like, we're going to kick ass, we're going to be the best. I'm going to put my nose down and just fucking grind as long as I can. And, I'm not going to be weak. And then we bring our head up 15, 20 years later and go, oh shit, I've been grinding for that long. I'm human and I actually need to rest. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, we can
And
break. We all can break.
what I've seen, and I don't know if you've seen the same thing, is with our younger colleagues, they're like, I'll make less money and work less. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't
And
need to practice.
yeah, and it's really cool actually to see that because I know, most of my colleagues, not very many of them would have been okay with just being an associate. But
Yeah.
I know many
Oh,
doctors
yeah,
that
that's a,
were
yeah.
associates, bought practices. These are people that have gone through my courses and then realized, God, I really don't want to be an owner. I would rather just be an associate.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's kind of cool that we're getting a little bit more balance coming from the younger generation. They want to be involved with their kids. They want to have a mindfulness practice
Yeah.
in
And a work-life
their
balance.
life.
Yeah. 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 I think the one negative of that is that because of the corporate nature of dentistry, a lot of people are just forced into not owning, right? They
Yeah.
can afford to
Hmm.
start a practice or buy a practice, and that unfortunately I think is something we're going to have to look for and solve for over the next couple decades. I've
Yeah,
got
I think we've gone so far, the idea of why we need DSOs makes total sense and definitely made sense when they started in the, 70s and 80s. And then it got really too far, right? And now I think there's groups like yours, and I'm working on some stuff too that is trying to make it like by dentists for dentists.
yes.
And I think if we can do that, we'll really be able to help a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we may be up against some pretty big giants. We are against
We
some
are.
giants, but that
Yep.
doesn't mean we can't have impact and influence and inspire folks to realize that you can be in charge of this larger organization that has,
Mhm.
a patient focus and a dentist focused, right? It's
Yeah.
about the dentist, the practitioner. I mean, let's be real here, right? We're special because we're providers.
Mhm.
We're the ones actually doing the production.
Yes.
That's different than other corporate businesses that are
Yeah.
corporate owned and corporate led. You can't just replace Kyle Stanley, right?
Mhm.
You need a really good person to fit into my DSO. You have to be a leader. You have to be a successful dentist.
I mean, especially the level that you guys are doing is just incredible.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that I hope, I mean, this is kind of an aside from our discussion tonight, but I hope that you and me and others that I know or that are working real hard at this right now is to create another opportunity for young dentists when they get out of school to have a pathway to equity. Maybe it's just a little
Mhm.
bit, but they
Yep.
got a pathway to go join something where they're going to be recognized if they want skin in the game. I want them to have skin in the game,
Hmm.
and that's going to provide a successful career in dentistry for them that's surrounded by evidence-based dentistry research and education and all the things that you and I have done in our careers is the full package. It's I believe that if we can manage our stresses and our traumas, that we can be really happy in these environments of an interdisciplinary model of care that's doing some research at some level, at least reading the evidence so that you're making
Right. It's a good
decisions
start.
about what you're doing. And then there's this next level of what you and I are really passionate about, and that's artificial intelligence, that there's really good purpose and reason to bring this to the forefront of dentistry right now. I mean, it already kind of is, but you've been working on this longer than I have in with your diagnostic AI and now operational AI that we're using, by the way, in our DSO. Pearl is part of us now. Um, uh,
Amazing.
that we're working on behavioral AI, risk
Yeah.
assessment AI, all these things that are just they're going to be game changers. And now, right now, like Pearl offers, we're trying to create through our research some operational AI that helps us with operations of research and education and clinical practice. So this is, I think, an exciting part of what we're doing. And I think that the relationship to our discussion tonight is that you're not going to be happy with all these things coming at you if you can't manage your stress.
Yeah. I mean, AI will definitely, I believe, help with it because when I've helped over 2,000 dentists in 50 different countries, and most of the time they're not coming to me saying, I'm really bad at doing dentistry and that's why I'm so stressed out. What they're saying is, listen, I like doing the dentistry, but also doing the management, also helping with the orders, also helping with when my front office has a problem or when the chair breaks or, when this patient doesn't understand what I'm saying or when they don't accept treatment. So it's really all these extra things around the clinical area. And what's great about a lot of the technology that is either already out or coming out is that it's going to take a lot of that off of our plates. And so I believe the technology that's coming and is already here will really help us focus on doing clinical work and on the human that's in front of us. Because it'll be like we have these assisted, kind of agentic AIs that are helping us do a lot of the mundane tasks. Like
Yeah.
simple things like writing notes.
Yep.
I mean, you and I know when you're doing surgery and you've got to write which needle you're using and which implant you're placing and how many drills did you use and what your torque was and if there was a sinus tear. I mean, all of that is challenging and you do that, in between patients or at the end of the day. I mean, it's one more thing. If we can take some of that off of our plate, even if it only does 80% of it, and we just do the last 20% of verifying that it's good, I mean, that could save us a ton of stress throughout the day, and that already is here and is being deployed.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's truly amazing. And I think the other thing important for people to know about AI is that we're not trying to replace people. We're trying to make people around us better, right? To create a digital clone for our employees that are already great, and let's make them better. Let's give them more time to do other things that can all help us grow and become more successful. So
Well,
I think,
that's a good point. What we did at Pearl and all of our FDA approvals now, I can't even remember how many there are, maybe 10 or 11 or something like that. Um, every time that we take dentists are pretty good at what we do. Anytime you take them and you add AI to them, they always get better. 100% of the time, with every FDA trial that we've done, they always get better. And notice that I'm saying the dentist versus the dentist and the AI. I'm not saying the dentist versus the AI because it is an assistive tool. All of these AI agents that, at least what we have now, are assistive tools. So they're taking us that are already pretty good and making us better. It's like driving, I mean, I love cars and you know that.
yeah,
And we're pretty good drivers, right? I mean, you and I, we've been driving for decades, right? But guess what? About once a decade, I get in an accident. Sometimes it's my fault, sometimes it's not, but I would rather have zero accidents. So
right.
having some assistive tool that can help me with that, yeah, of course I'm going to
Protect
do
you.
that.
Protect you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, back to dentistry is that that's the way we're selling it and teaching it is that this is not going to come in and allow us to get rid of a bunch of overhead in
Yeah.
employees. No, it's going to come in and help all these great employees get better and free up time for them.
I
That
mean, a great example of that is, there's a lot of companies coming out that are using AI to get patients scheduled on the phone. Okay. And I'm an advisor to one of these companies. And sometimes when I'm giving lectures, there's some front office team members in the audience, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to take my job." And really the answer is no. The answer is it's that day, that time when you're checking out a patient and the phone rings. Well, what do you do now, right? If we can just have the AI take the phone call, you can spend all your effort and emotion on that patient right in front of you. Get them checked out, get them their next hygiene, collect whatever fees may need to be collected. And that is how it's exactly what you're saying. It's allowing humans to do what we do best and taking away things that we're not very good at anyways
Yeah.
and
Right.
putting them on something else.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, we've done all these personal profiling and strengths and weaknesses. Um, take those individuals that they know and you know what their strengths are, right? Let's focus on those strengths, and the weaknesses. Let's get someone else to help them. If it's not a person, there's certainly AI that can help them manage those weaknesses, and that's I think, what we're trying to do in our organization is let's rise up and help each other out. Whether it's what we're talking about tonight with mental health and self-awareness, whether it's in your team, the stress is in your team that's maybe underperforming. What do you do? It's hard as an owner of a practice to be, the master of all, where you're managing employees, you're hiring, you're firing. You got an office manager, but you're still, because it's you own it. You're still the one that where the buck stops here, and you've got to help the managers manage, and it's stressful. And take our practice, for example. It's a fairly large perio practice. It was, 3 doctors and 30 employees. In 18 months, we went from 30 employees to 160 employees or 150 employees,
Easy.
and 1 location to 9 locations. That's
Right.
stressful, right? But
Yeah.
no way we couldn't have done it without leaning on each other and leaning on technology. There's no way. And um, our team that came in to help us with the startup integration leading to operations was an outside team that was here for a short time to get us started. They couldn't have done what they did without an amazing platform of intelligence, technology intelligence to guide us through that integration process in 185 days, right? The list I looked at
Crazy.
at the onset was so overwhelming. I used to look at this and say, oh my God, there's no way. There's just no way we can do this. And we did it. And leaning on technology, leaning on each other is absolutely essential. So as we're trying to maybe make some summaries out of this, and I'd love to hear what you think, but you know all of you listening tonight, but also this will be brought up on our platforms later, YouTube and social media, other social media avenues to hear these things. We want to have some strong takeaways, and one is, for sure, take care of yourself first. Take care of yourself first.
Don't feel bad about it.
Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel guilt. There's a lot of moms out there that, man, they take care of their children, everybody around them, and they're so strong that they weather the storm.
Yeah.
And ultimately, maybe at some point, they're going to take care of themselves.
Hmm.
Well, let's reverse that. Let's take care of ourselves first, because you're going to be a better mom. You're going to be a better
Yeah.
spouse. You're going to be a better dentist, as you said before. So take care of yourself first. Build a community. Build
Hmm.
a community around you of like-minded individuals that share these thoughts and perspectives on how you're going to build your practice or your life or your community. And
This
for
is so
me,
important. And I think, what you guys do with your study clubs and everything, this is one of the great reasons why I think we still need study clubs. A lot of people are like, oh, let's just do webinars. Let's not meet in person. But the people that you see once a month, once every other month, whatever the cadence is, if you can get them to start talking about these real life situations, and maybe you need a speaker or something like me or Martin to come in and talk about this. But once you have that, and I know, thank you for inviting me to speak to your group, but I know that after I spoke, a lot of conversations got brought up that wouldn't have happened, and how you can bring people together and they feel like I'm not alone anymore.
yeah,
Because
breaking down
that's when
barriers.
you lose colleagues, is when people feel like I'm alone. I'm the only one that's going through this. I'm a loser. Everybody else is doing great. And they feel like there's no, they don't feel understood. And one of the most repeated phrases that Martin and I hear in our live events, and when we kind of summarize the 2 days, is people say, I'm just glad that I'm not alone.
Yeah, yeah, breaking down barriers, creating a comfort zone, creating a safe zone. That's the number one thing we did in my study club. I went years and years of having a educational venue, full house, great speaker, but we never talked about anything.
Yeah.
So going on almost 10 years ago, we just started to go the Spear Study Club route, and
Hmm.
we brought together, 10 to 15 of my go-to folks, not just great dentists, but good people and friends. But I didn't have a significant outside dentistry friendship. Now I do. We travel
Yeah.
together. We came out to Newport.
Hmm.
We've gone to Seattle to see Becca and Gunson, and
Yeah.
we 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 break bread together. We have a different relationship than we ever had before we started this intimate study club. And the key thing when we started that study club and we got together for the first time, Martin was our leader, and Martin said, "You gotta be able to create a safe environment.
Yeah.
Everybody's open and willing to share, and not
Yeah.
just their horrible case that they failed on, right? But what's going on in their life. We have one of our Spirit Study Club members, great gal, great dentist, and she was hammered with a very significant threat of legal, and it was
Yeah.
killing her. And she
I've
brought
been there.
it to us, and we all listened, and we were her sounding board. And then we have a WhatsApp group too that we communicate on, and she kept it going, and I know that she benefited so much by all of these people listening to her, because some of it have had legal issues too, right? If you
Yeah.
practice long enough, you're going to have somebody try to sue you.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
reality.
I think there's an ADA study I think that they showed if you practice for 20 years, you'll 90% chance that you will be sued by either a team member or a patient.
Yeah, yeah, I totally believe that.
And
Or
especially if you're in California.
yeah, and if not sued, stay bored, right?
Yes. Hmm.
I mean, I've done that once, and I mean
Yep.
that took years off my life because it
Yep.
took three
Agreed.
years. It was for an absolutely crazy patient,
Yeah.
and I won, but to go through it, I felt like a failure when I got
Yep.
that notice in the mail, right? So, I mean, I think everybody, my last thing is it embrace education, embrace community, and really embrace artificial intelligence now, because it can't help you. That all these things, if we embrace them and we kind of try to create that full package for ourselves of becoming more mentally strong and resilient. I hear that word a lot from your programs. This resilience we need, we can have. It's right there. It takes effort. It takes effort to do it. But there's so many resources out there today. So as we kind of work towards closing this out, Kyle, what do you think? What is your profound message to dental communities today that they can wake up tomorrow and say, "Hey, let's get started with a better version of ourselves"?
Yeah, dentistry can be really challenging, really hard, but it can also be incredible. It can also be an amazing profession. And the difference between those two feelings is usually your soft skills and your mental health. That's what the difference is. I mean, after I kind of came out of my burnout and was feeling good mentally and physically, it's not like I didn't have complications or I didn't have team challenges. No, but I was better prepared to deal with them. So I would say focus on yourself, focus on these soft skills. Yes, you need to be a good clinical dentist for sure. But at some point, saving zero point 0.1 millimeters on your implant is not going to change your life, but learning how to communicate better or learning how to have a better mindset or learning how to manage stress will actually change your life. And so I would say to reserve, if you're starting this journey, reserve 20% of your time, effort, and money that you would normally spend on clinical learning towards non-clinical learning, towards
Absolutely.
learning these soft skills, learning crucial conversations, learning how to set boundaries, learning how to set expectations. And these are the dentists that I see that kick ass and thrive. When you take someone who is a sound clinical dentist and then they start focusing on their mental health, their soft skills, gosh, they kick ass. And
Yeah.
I've seen it time and time again.
Yeah. And their level of satisfaction. Um, I mean, we know a lot of these people, right? And I think we're two of them. And,
Mhm.
and to create a greater sense of the self-awareness and ability to communicate with our patients and our team is so critical to our own happiness.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, it's such a powerful tool to embrace this. So I couldn't echo that enough. Is that invest in yourself, not just with dental education, but how can you make yourself more resilient and create a happier life for yourself, and then when those stress points come, you're going to be able to manage them better. Um, and that's a gift, man. If you can really get into the trenches and have a really, really bad day. And at the end of that really, really bad day, say, you know what? I battled it better today than I did 5 years ago. That's a gift.
It's
Uh,
huge.
and we're not getting any younger, right?
Definitely not. My shoulders and my back will tell you that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to figure out how to, because you clinically right now, you practice how many days a week?
Uh, just it just went to zero.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've just gone down to just focusing on research and on my startups and education. So
Well,
yeah,
congratulations.
it was a long transition. So yeah.
I was hoping after my 20 year of practice, I was going to cut back to, less than 5 days a week. I haven't done that yet. I'm just continue to work on how to manage this
Good. Yeah, that's
roller
rough.
coaster.
Yeah.
I'm
Good for
not
you
5 days
though.
clinical, but now with the business part of this,
Right.
spend time on that, and if I'm traveling to educate, then
Yes.
I'm adding clinical days on the next month or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I hope I'm striving to get to not to zero, but I'm striving to get to 3 by the time I'm 54. So I got 6 years to try to get to
Yeah.
3 days a week.
Yeah, I never would have thought that I wouldn't practice anymore, but for me, it just kind of turned out to be a financial situation that it made no financial sense for me at some point
Yeah,
to practice anymore when I had the startup stuff that I was working on, and so it's
yeah,
been fun. It's been a fun little
yeah.
change for me.
It is exciting. It's exciting to watch your career, my friend.
Thank
It,
you.
it's very unique and
It is.
obviously inspiring to many of us. So I can't thank you enough for being a part of my journey with this, and hey, let's continue to do what we do. I think a couple things here is that we're working on it. It hasn't been as easy as I thought. We're starting a nonprofit for this so that when we run programs, we can give back to the organizations that help with mental health. Every state has a program for dentists that are struggling.
Yeah.
So we're trying to support those organizations that most people don't even know exist.
Yeah.
But every state has that for you out there to
Yeah.
help you with mental health and mental catastrophe.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
been nice. I've been working with a lot of those state programs in the last few years that I didn't know existed, but
yeah,
now they're really starting to put a lot more effort and time and money into them, and they're looking for more advisors and
yeah,
they're looking for resources. So it's been really cool. It's
yeah.
great to see this topic being talked about more. And I speak at a lot of state dental associations now when even 3 years ago, they would have never wanted a mental health speaker. They would invite me, but it would be on implants or smile design or some of my research. But now they all want me to talk about mental health, which has been really cool to see.
Yeah, that's great. And it's not just, people that are suffering from stress and depression. It's drug addiction, alcoholism, uh,
Hmm.
all kinds of different levels of problems that are out there that you can get help with. So just
Yeah,
contact the state board agency and they'll lead you to these organizations. Uh,
yeah,
Kyle and I are an open book. You can get in touch with us. We're on social media. We're here to help you, here to at least guide you towards programs that work for people. Uh,
yeah,
which we participate in. Others, we just know people around the globe that do great stuff like this. And it's essential to have mentorship and friendships out there, community out there to help you get through the stresses and rigors of dentistry. So realize that you can engage us. We're easy to get a hold of. That's what we do. We want to share. We want to be there for you and make sure you can achieve that best version of your practice, yourself, your family life, your community, all of that. It's incredibly important that we have impact. That's people like Kyle and I that we don't we don't feel fulfilled if we're not impacting those around us. Um, so with that, this is going to be regurgitated on our social media. So certainly reach out to us when you do listen to this. And Kyle, I can't thank you enough. Like I said, you've been a huge inspiration to our community here in Houston. We someday need to get you back down here to speak to a larger group. I'd love
Yeah, let's do it.
yeah, come to speak to our DSO, and get all these team members excited about the life they can have with more mindfulness and
Yeah,
self-awareness. So thanks,
I love
man.
it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. Bye,
Yeah.
everyone.
Take care, bud. See ya.